This is wrong. You're abusing this program. To make it worse, Section 702 is being debated right now. Section 702 is something that has to come up for reauthorization every 2 years. And what Section 702 does is it allows these continued secret, here it is, secret warrantless wiretaps on people. But again, you know, on whom? And what's the threshold? We don't know what the threshold is. Nobody will tell us. And so you get somebody like Carter Page, who, you know, was doing what he thought he was supposed to be doing as a, you know, mid-level Trump campaign person, talking to an Australian ambassador, and the next thing you know, he knows, or he didn't know it actually. The next thing he is experiencing is he's under investigation. There are FISA warrants against him. And then the FISA warrants were repeatedly renewed, even though there was no evidence that he had ever committed a crime. I think many Americans believe, that this was done at the behest of John Brennan, and it was all part of Brennan's plan to deny Donald Trump the presidency. I really, honestly believe that that's what this is.
Well, they failed miserably.
They failed miserably, and now it's going to be their turn to have the tables turned.
And you think they're going to use it?
God, I hope so. You know, there has been news this week about
Cash. You're talking about, you know, Todd Blanche, what they're doing. Yeah,
I'm genuinely worried now that they're not going to prosecute John Brennan. I think John Brennan is a malevolent figure in modern American politics and government. John Brennan, I believe, really did attempt to carry out a coup, not with tanks in the streets. He tried to do it through rumor and innuendo, and he tried to deny Donald Trump the presidency. He tried to deny, you know, the choice of 51% of Americans.
Yeah, so DOJ's U.S. abruptly rescinds?
Yeah, day before yesterday. I'm deeply worried about this.
What's their reasoning? What argument did they give?
They didn't give a reason. They just did it. Just as they named Joe DeGenova. Do you remember Joe DeGenova? He was a U.S. attorney under Reagan. He's a real go-getter, like a real thinker. But he's kind of, you know, he's an older guy now. He's in his 80s.
DeGenova.
Yeah, Joseph DeGenova. Strong Trump supporter. And just at the beginning of the week, he was named the lead investigator in the Brennan case in South Florida, which was great. He's a giant. But then all of a sudden, these subpoenas were rescinded.
Why do you think? Speculate. Why do you think?
I've been told that the alleged crimes that are being investigated are what are called process crimes. Crimes you and I probably already committed 3-4 times today without even knowing it. Those are really hard to prosecute because then you have to argue criminal intent, and, you know, one of them is lying to Congress. Yeah, that's a crime. Almost nobody gets prosecuted. All the Trump people did because the Democrats, you know, lost their minds at the end of the first Trump term. But that's one of those ones that, you know, grand juries are kind of loath to put people in prison for. I have argued that the Justice Department should be looking at a conspiracy charge, because clearly there was a conspiracy to deny Trump the presidency. And if there is a conspiracy, just the fact that you're covering up the conspiracy ought to be enough to reset the statute of limitations literally every single day. And that's a serious crime. That's, you know, you could get 10 years in prison, 20 years in prison, whatever it is, for conspiracy.
Yeah, part of it I'm thinking, so the FISA, if, you know, concerns some people, well, you know, he could have stopped it. Why didn't he stop the FISA? And, you know, he knows this isn't, you know, what's going to happen for the next president to come in, that they're going to investigate. But then the part you have to think about to say, so you want me to stop it now after they used it against me?
Right.
So.
But, you know, I think it's even I think that his thinking is even more pure than that. It's not just, they used it against me. He said something this week that I was like, oh, okay. I've seen other presidents, kind of fall into this in the past. He said he talked to 36 generals and admirals, and every single one of them said, we need FISA 702 because it keeps America safe. I personally think that that's not exactly true. I think it should be tightened so that the civil liberties of Americans are protected. But I think that 36 generals and admirals did tell him that.
This is a week ago. This is the one you were talking about here. Yeah,
yes,
so
this is it.
When the dirty cop James Comey failed head of FBI, went after me. He was using FISA Title I, the domestic collection, not FISA 702, the foreign collection, which needs to be extended today. While parts of FISA were illegally and unfortunately used against me in the Democrats' disgraceful witch hunt and attack in the Russia hoax, and perhaps would be used against me in the future, I'm willing to risk the giving up of my rights and privileges as a citizen for our great military and country. Our military patriots desperately need FISA 702, and it is one of the reasons we have such tremendous success on the battlefield. I've spoken with many military leaders who say FISA is necessary in order to protect our troops overseas as well as our people here at home from the threat of foreign terror attacks. It has already prevented many such attacks.
See, but that's kind of apples and oranges. If FISA 702 isn't leading to battlefield victories, FISA 702 is identifying individuals or small groups of people who are planning terrorist attacks overseas. That's why we need FISA 702. What we don't need is the CIA, the FBI, and NSA then saying, this Patrick Bet-David guy, he looks like an interesting character. We're going to check him out. Why? Why are they checking you out? You're an American citizen. You have constitutional rights. Tucker Carlson, he's talking to, a Russian to interview Putin. He's talking to an Iranian to interview Pezeshkian or whomever he interviewed. Mm-hmm. What, he's not allowed? He's a journalist. He can interview anybody he wants. So there's no reason to use 702 against American citizens like that. We need tighter controls.
You think we're going to see something? You think we're going to see something, them going after anybody? Comey,
No.
Clinton's, anything?
No.
Obama?
I don't.
Nothing.
No. I think it's wishful thinking.
So no one's getting arrested. No one's going to be...
Well, especially not Obama, because these recent Supreme Court decisions clearing Trump also, through the back door cleared Obama of just about anything that he's been accused of doing. So Obama, I think, is free and clear. Hillary, I've actually looked into this. The statute of limitations has expired on just about everything that you could possibly accuse Hillary of doing. So I think she's scot-free as well.